Welcome to Biblically Lit, conversations that illuminate Scripture and ignite faith. I'm your host, MindiJoFurby, author and founder of King's Mind Books. Hi, friends. I am so glad that you are here and so thankful that you are joining us today. Today, I have a really special guest, and her name is Emily Berning, and she is the president and co-founder of the nonprofit organization Let Them Live, which helps moms. They're a pro-life organization, and they help moms financially choose life. So we're going to get into it, but this is a big, huge issue, and finances are a big reason why moms choose to abort. So I can't wait to hear more of her story. I'm so grateful that Emily has decided and made room in her schedule to come on and have a chat with me. So without further ado, welcome, Emily, and thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk. I love talking about Let Them Live. So, yeah, it's going to be great.
I love learning about it. So this is going to be a great conversation. So let's start at the beginning. Let Them Live is only, six years or almost 7 years?
Yeah, it's all hard to pinpoint because the idea started, but then...
Right.
Who we are in our mission, the Lord brought that later, but 6-ish years.
Okay,
Yeah,
but which is still my point. It's very young. It's a young organization, and yet you guys have experienced tremendous success. God has just poured out His blessing on you guys, and you've grown, and you've been able to help so many moms and all this. So tell us how it started, and tell us who you are, and just have free reign. I want to know all the things.
For sure. Well, I feel like who I am is just so tied into being pro-life. Like that has just become my identity. And that all kind of started when I was in college. I grew up in the church. I grew up being pro-life, but not really knowing what that meant. And I think a lot of people can relate to that because
I think so.
You're like, yeah, I'm pro-life, but what does that mean?
Right.
And so when I went to college, that's when I just got interested, I guess. I don't really understand how or why, but I got interested in the issue of abortion. And I started reading, I started understanding what abortion is and what it does and how it affects women and everything. And then that's when I just really decided that I'm going to be pro-life. This is what I want to do. So my whole life plan that I had of going into the medical field, I just totally abandoned that. I remember calling my parents my junior year of college and was like, I'm going to be a pro-life activist instead. And they were literally the exact same reaction. They're like, oh, what? I'm sure all parents would be pretty freaked out, but it all ended up working out. But I just was following this passion, this seed that the Lord had planted. And so I kind of became known as Pro-Life Emily, started ditching class to do pro-life activism. And, I graduated for sure, but I did a lot of pro-life stuff. And after that, I actually went to go work for a nonprofit called the Leadership Institute. And that's where I met Nathan, my husband. He was an activist as well. We were both conservative activists. And he really just saw the pro-life spark in me. So he's an entrepreneur. He's very innovative, big thinker, visionary. And I am certainly not that way. I'm also I was at the time, I say I was because I've become more accepting of risk, but I was risk averse. He was definitely a risk taker. So the two of us came together and he's like, you should start a pro-life nonprofit. And I got my degree in biology. So I was like, I don't even know. I'm not qualified for this, okay? But he just kept encouraging me to just take that leap. So we did. We started Let Them Live, came up with the name. It felt kind of like a shell at first because we had this name. We were a nonprofit, but, we just didn't know what we were going to do. So that was a bit of a struggle. There was some time where I was like, well, maybe I should get back into the medical field. Maybe I should go back to school. And then, I took the MCATs. Maybe I should just be a doctor. I can't let my degree go to waste. I don't know what God's doing with this nonprofit thing. It's not doing anything. And at one point, I remember having a conversation with the Lord, and I was like, okay, fine. You wore me down enough. I will focus on the nonprofit. I won't be a doctor. But there's two things that I don't want to do. I don't want to do pregnancy counseling, and I don't want to fundraise all the time. I know. So I'm like, okay, well, those are the two things that we do.
Right.
So major humbling moment. But sure enough, just soon after that happened was actually the first encounter that we had with a mom, the very first mom, Let Them Live mom. And that's when it became kind of a light bulb moment of what our mission was. So Nathan and I had just got married. We were 2 months, like we were newlyweds. We had no money in our bank account. We were just, we were getting along. We had some money from our wedding. We deposited those checks. It was great. We finally had some money. And 2 months after we got married, I was sleeping. Nathan was up super late and he was on Facebook in a pro-life group. And a woman had posted that her cousin had an abortion scheduled for the following Monday. And she was asking for advice. She was like, hey, my cousin has an abortion. Does anyone what can I do? Does anyone have any advice? And everyone was commenting, pregnancy center, adoption, we're praying for you. But what Nathan had noticed at the time was that no one had asked, why? What was the reason that she was going to have that abortion? And this is all so funny because at the time, Nathan was apathetic at best with the pro-life issue. He used to be pro-choice, and he probably was still kind of pro-choice at this time. So it's so funny that the Lord used him in this moment to reach a woman who was considering abortion, help her. Yeah. So he did just that. He reached out to this woman and said, hey, why is your cousin having an abortion? And he found out that she was evicted and living in her car. It was December and she was in Canada. Oh. So freezing. She lost her job, lost custody of her kids. I mean, it was just really, really bad. And I remember him nudging me awake. We were at his grandparents' house. I can remember this like it was yesterday. He nudges me awake and I'm like, what's up? And he's like, hey, there's this woman who is going to have an abortion because she's living in her car. He told me this situation. And he's like, but we could support her financially. Do you want to help cancel an abortion? And I was like, yeah, totally. Of course I want to. If anyone was asked that question, we'd be like, yeah, of course I want to save a life from abortion. He's like, you want to save a life? And I was like, well, how exactly are we going to do that? He's like, well, we're going to help her. We have to empty our bank account and give this mom all of our money and get her back into her apartment. And she's going to choose life. She's going to choose life. And I was just like, okay. And I think I woke up the next morning just thinking I don't even remember if I was freaking out or if I was totally calm. I just remember that we did it. We literally gave this mom $1,200, which is all we had from wedding checks. We got her back into her apartment and she chose life. She canceled her abortion and she sent us an ultrasound. And that was the moment that it was that light bulb moment that I had been waiting for. What are we supposed to be doing with Let Them Live, Lord? Right. And it was that moment. It was okay, there's probably other women who are experiencing a situation very similar to this, where they're going in for that abortion, not because they want to, women don't want that, but because she feels pressured to because of her circumstances and her financial situation. So sure enough, we started researching, and majority of women do have abortions, at least in part because of the financial problem. And so that's how Let Them Live was born. We were like, okay, this is it. This is what we're going to do. And it was so funny because I don't even know if I realized in that moment, I don't even think I realized this until a couple years ago, that I was like, wait, I remember that conversation I had with God where I was like, I don't want to do pregnancy counseling and I don't want to have to fundraise all the time. And we were counseling women, Nathan and I, just the two of us, the two of us started this, and it just snowballed. Like you said, it's a very young organization, but it has just grown and grown, and it's been really amazing to see the Lord work.
That is spectacular. Well, there's a saying that goes something like, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans or tell him what you won't do. And then he's going to be like, yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah, just be prepared.
Yeah, be prepared.
He's going to qualify you.
There may be a chance that he's probably going to intervene in a way that you are not expecting. That's so, I love your story. I love how God just orchestrated it all. we have some similarities. I actually became passionate about biblical literacy by being angry by something of what made me angry, because I was seeing people, I grew up in church, and I was seeing other people who grew up in church and people who were going, I have my degree in biblical studies, but people who were my fellow students and also going into some kind of ministry and not caring about the Bible. And it just like, oh, but why? Or people not knowing anything about the Bible. I had a friend who grew up in church who didn't know who Jonah was. I was like, anyway.
That was me, honestly.
Really?
I'm like 15 days
so
away
sad.
from finishing the Bible. Like I've been doing Carolee Cobble's Bible recap.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes.
So
I love that. But see, and my heart, like I got mad not at people. I got mad at churches. I got mad at the institution for not preparing people and not giving them knowledge, because when we have knowledge, then we get passionate about what's right and what's good. And some people might be thinking, well, this is a Bible podcast. Why are you doing pro-life stuff? And I'm like, well, because to be biblically literate means just more than head knowledge. It means to apply God's truth into real life. And how better can we do that than providing and protecting babies starting at conception.
100%.
So I love your story. I love how God has worked and is continuing to work. And I kind of also, I know you don't probably love this part, but I love how he made you wait. I love how there was that like bit of time where you had to really focus on him and be dependent on him. And even how you were like, well, do I do this? Because I've been there too, where I'm like, I think this is what you've called me to do, but nothing's happening. So maybe I should just go and do this. There's lots of stories in the Bible that where people did the same thing. And he's just, in fact, one time, I'm not going to go into it, but he's like, why is your plan B better than my plan A?
Oh, I like that.
It's not. My plan A is
we like
always
to
better
try
than
to
your
think
plan
it is,
We do. We do. We like to be a little controlling. So, oh my goodness, love that story. And so that's kind of how it started. So the goal of Let Them Live is, seems fairly obvious, but
to come alongside these women, specifically with the financial support. We do more than financial support, of course. We have a whole range of stuff, which I'm sure we'll talk about, but it just didn't make sense to us, especially Nathan, which is so funny because, again, he wasn't pro-life. He actually wasn't even a Christian at this time. And I was still kind of like figuring out my faith too. So the Lord really, it's also intertwined with us. Like our story with Let Them Live is also our journey to like Christianity and being baptized, so all of that. It's all just like,
love that.
everything. But to this guy, it just shows that no matter who you are, where you're from, or what you believe, like we can all agree that women need help.
Absolutely.
Pregnant women need help. Like in society, I feel like there's 3 types of people that we, get up off the seat for so they can sit down, or we take care of. It's babies/children, pregnant women, and like elderly people. And so there's just this inherent sense. And so that's what we do. It's meeting women right where they're at, and helping them tangibly, because there's a lot of really intangible support that's important, of course. Like I believe in the power of prayer. I really do. But especially for women who are not believers or who may not be in the same place that I'm at with my faith, we have to meet them where they're at. And when they come to us at Let Them Live, they are facing real, tangible needs. They can't pay their bills. They're in debt. They can't feed their family. They're scared. And fear is such a powerful driver.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, fear makes us do all sorts of crazy stuff that we wouldn't normally do. And I think that's something that we can all kind of relate to. So if we put ourselves in the shoes of a woman who finds herself pregnant in a less than ideal situation, fear is more often than not going to drive her to that abortion clinic, or to take those abortion pills. And so if we can kind of step in, and that's what we do, we step in, we help support her financially and obviously emotionally, and we just give her the space to be able to kind of take a step back and think about what she really wants to do, which is choose life. It's just that inherent natural biological instinct that women have when they find out they're pregnant. So our goal is to really help them think through that decision and help them choose life. So I'm really proud to say this. I I am so proud of Let Them Live, not because of anything I've done, but because of the Lord. But 98% of women who come to Let Them Live who have abortions scheduled, they cancel them and they choose life.
Stop it.
Yes.
That's amazing. I didn't realize that 98%. Oh my goodness.
Yes. I mean, it's a whole team effort, but it shows like just how much this works, you know?
Well, and I love how it's twofold, right? You're meeting the practical needs because that needs to happen first. Because while they're terrified, they're not going to be thinking clearly. They're not going to be able to understand. They're not, even counseling. It's like, okay, cool, I'm starving, or okay, cool, I'm freezing, or like you have to have physical needs met first, and then, but you partner that with that education piece with like, hey, let's think this through, and not education like sit in a classroom at a desk.
But exactly.
But let's talk about this.
Some of the deeper
process
stuff.
This. Let's figure out, what are you afraid of? What would your, and just working and walking with them through that, because that gives them not just where they feel like they've been given a handout, but it feels like they've been given a partner. It feels like they've been given someone or something that is not just here, have a meal, and then go about with your way. It's, hey, we're going to meet these needs. And I love how you said your emotional needs, and we're going to walk with you through this. Yeah. You're not alone. And 100%. Who doesn't need to hear that? Oh
my gosh, we all do. We all do.
Exactly.
And this is something I always end up using like a hospital or like emergency room analogy for Let Them Live in a lot of different ways, because I think it matches up very well. So one of the examples I use is not to say like this is the exact scenario with the moms, but the idea is that let's say someone comes into the emergency room because they have overdosed. What's the first thing that's going to happen? They're not going to be met with someone from rehab that's like, okay, let's talk about why you did this. No, they're going to be resuscitated, or their physical needs are going to be met, because you have to save the life. You have to stabilize them. You have to make sure that they're going to actually make it. And that's the same like thought process that we have at Let Them Live. We have to help these women stabilize, make sure they and their babies are going to make it, because reality is that that the child's life is at stake with an abortion. But I have seen time and time again these women planning to just not live after their abortion is over. And so there really are two lives. There's more than two lives. Right? There's a lot of people at stake here, but we have to stabilize and kind of get rid of the life and death emergency situation. And then we're really able to meet them. So it's like a combination of getting to know them, getting to know their needs, meeting their needs, and then working with them and like building that trust. But that's the best example I have is once someone is stabilized, then you can bring in someone to talk about longer term solutions and therapy and the deeper rooted issues. Right.
Well, there's the urgent and there's the important. And you have to get the urgent met and dealt with first, because that's not going to have a shelf life. That has to be done first. Yeah. And then, but I love that whole approach. It's you get them feeling safe, feeling like they're in a good place physically and emotionally. And then you start, hey, okay, now let's start. So oh my goodness, I love that. And it's just so practical. And it's what Jesus did. I mean, you want to go back to basics. Like, he met physical needs too. Yes, he met spiritual needs and emotional needs, but he met physical needs because that's important. And I love, one of my favorite stories is Elijah. But after Mount Carmel, it's this like it's literally a mountaintop experience. And then he goes and gets depressed. But God's solution is you need to take a nap and you need to eat some food. You need to take a nap and you need to eat some food, because your physical body needs to be replenished before we have any more further conversations. And so even in the Old Testament, we're seeing this approach and how you got, anyway, I love
the Lord
this.
made our bodies, he made us to have certain needs and needing food, needing water. So totally agree.
Yeah,
and I love nappers. Yeah. I'm a napper, so I always refer back to that. I'm like, you need a nap. Yes, you do.
It's in the Bible. I need a nap.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's a biblical prescription. Thank you so much. That's so funny. Well, I love that. So we know this is a huge need. Just how big of a need is it?
Yeah.
How, like, statistically, I think I read somewhere in your guys' like 73% of women feel that financial pressure, and that's not solely, but that is a contribution to her thought process for booking that abortion. So now that you've been in it for a little while, tell us how it's probably not getting smaller. We'll put it that way. The need.
Yeah, I know. And it's so crazy because when you think about it, I started thinking about this, and there's always a reason that a woman is walking into that abortion appointment or about to take those pills. And my stance is that probably 99.999% of abortions are coerced abortions. People typically think of coercion as like someone pressuring you, but I also believe it's your situation or your circumstances pressuring you to do something that you wouldn't normally do or you wouldn't otherwise do. And so we use the 73% to show that financial need because that's really where we come in. But in reality, there's a lot of need. There's women that are having abortions that could be 100% preventable if we just had the right solutions. And so something that's really important to understand as well is the balance between sort of the legal approach to ending abortion. One of our friends has talked about it in his book. His name is Brett Atterbury, but he wrote that abortion, if you look at the abortion industry, you should look at it in terms of supply and demand. So we have gone after for so long, like the supply of abortion. And that's just one part of it. The demand for abortion is a whole other thing. And in some ways that's complicated because everyone has a different reason for getting an abortion. And sadly, I mean, I would love to see the day where no woman is even considering that, where that's just not even an option, where even if it was legal, women are just not going to choose that. But sadly, we've seen kind of the opposite of that, especially since Roe was overturned. Just the access to abortion pills, like the chemical abortion, or one of my colleagues called it the chemical coat hanger. So sad. But women are ordering these pills online, regardless of which state you're living in. It could be a state where abortion is illegal, but you can order pills. They come right to your door, and you're doing it by yourself. It's really dangerous. But the prevalence of abortion is just so high. And I think we have a really fallen culture. And so what we've seen with Let Them Live is being able to meet their tangible needs, to, like we talked about, is really successful because at that point they've decided, when they've decided to choose life, that no matter if they can get an abortion, whether, in person or traveling or whatever it is, they're not going to do it because they have support and they know they can do it. So unfortunately, I think abortion is still so rampant. I still think that there's this lie or this agenda being pushed that it's an easy solution. And I think that probably is one of the biggest lies of our time, because abortion comes with so much emotional, mental, physical, spiritual hurt that's not talked about. And so women just need to be wary. They just need to understand what abortion is and what it does and the consequences that it will have. And that's just not something being shared. So there's a beautiful movement in the pro-life movement of people educating about what abortion is. And I think that's extremely important. Organizations like Live Action, for example. And then we're coming alongside and helping them. And so it's just the power of the church, I think, coming together. Let Them Live has been funded by donors, by Christians, by non-Christians, by a whole bunch of people, but it's everyone coming together to do something. And that's the only reason that we've been able to save over 1,000 lives from abortion, is because of people coming together. So on one hand, it's extremely sad. I mean, this is the thing I struggle with all the time. I with Let Them Live, people are like, don't you just love your job? I'm like, I do. I love that I get to do this. I'm sad that I have to do it at the same time.
It's a redemptive industry.
Exactly.
You're in the redemption industry where you're faced with a just overwhelming issue that in a perfect world wouldn't exist. And so in a perfect world, your job as it is now wouldn't exist. But because of sin and because of choices and because of lies and just political agendas and all kinds of things and fear, I mean, the list goes on and on and on, because those things are a reality and it is ramping up. I had the privilege of talking to David Clausen, who wrote Life After Roe, which is just released, an excellent book. But I was shocked. The first chapter is released about statistics and the confusion about what abortion is to begin with. And that's just, it's mind-boggling to me, but that's what's heartbreaking to me too, is I don't think to your point, I don't think many people even realize what it is. And they haven't really thought through what this is. So Yes. So it's a huge issue. But I'm so grateful for everyone. And we'll get to it at the end with everyone does have a role to play.
Yes.
we'll get there. That's coming. But okay, so it's a huge need. So how do mothers find you? How do mothers get in touch with you? Or how do you find mothers who have, because is it true, like a lot of the times they've already had an abortion scheduled, or how does this whole process work? How do they get to you?
Yeah. So I'll go kind of back to my like emergency room analogy as well, which is cool. So women, they find us either like on social media. Okay. I'll share some stories about that later, or they're referred to us by pregnancy centers. We work very closely. We have a lot of amazing partnerships with Sidewalk Advocates for Life, 40 Days for Life, just like Live Action, for example, sends us moms if they reach out, if women reach out to them. So we have a great partnership. So there's a lot of referrals, and then there's a lot of women just reaching out to us because they saw us or someone mentioned us. And like we had someone who gave birth a couple of years ago, I think, who found us because someone mentioned us on Reddit. So that's like the main way is just those referrals. Yeah. And then the power of social media. Oh my gosh. Like I cannot emphasize this enough. Like the pro-life movement has to like harness that. And that's something that we do. Like we're very tech, digital, not me, our team. Just gonna make that clear. Not me. But our team is very forward in that way because that's where women are at. They're on social media.
Yep.
And so if we're able to reach them that way. And so it's really beautiful. But when women do come to us, we have a triage system. So just like the emergency room. And gosh, the triage system is such a genius, thing because it's not about who shows up first to the hospital, right? It's not about who you are, what your status is. It's about life or death. It's about making sure these injuries are treated in the order that they come in or that they need to be treated. Right. And so that's the system that we have at Let Them Live, where we have always believed that we are an organization that's here to help women cancel their abortions and choose life because those are real life or death scenarios. And so our triage system, if a woman comes in and she has an abortion scheduled like tomorrow or next week, and she's dead set on it, or she even has the abortion pills in hand, she's a red mom. Right. So she's like, this is an emergency, like all hands on deck, guys, like let's go. Yep. If there's a woman on the other end of the spectrum here, who is pregnant and she's struggling, but she's super pro-life, like abortion has never crossed her mind. It's not like her baby's life is not in danger. Her life is not in danger of abortion. Then she's going to be a green mom. Okay. That doesn't mean that we just say, sorry, can't help you. See you later. Right. We have a small team within our counseling team and we have tons of resources and partnerships, like I mentioned, that we collected that we're going to make sure that she gets so that she is sent to the places that are able to help. Because there are so many organizations that help regardless of if you're going to have an abortion or not. But I think part of our success as a nonprofit has been because we're so focused, because other organizations can call us in when it's that emergency situation, and that's what we specialize in. So that's what we're able to do. So there's women, we have yellow moms and orange moms because it's really not a black or white system. Right. There's women that kind of go in between. They're not sure. They cancel, they reschedule, they cancel. And so with the help of, we actually have an AI technology that we developed in-house that is a self-contained AI that helps us to determine where a mom is at and how we can best help her. So it's called ALICE. It's Abortion Likelihood Indicator, Calculator, and Evaluator. So it is a mouthful. I did not name it. And I did not develop the AI, but it's totally self-contained, Let Them Live software, and we're able to input the information a mom has given us, and it's going to spit out a score, and it's going to say, hey, we think like this mom is a red mom based on, her factors and based on known statistics about, maybe a mom's demographics, and if she's likely to have an abortion or not. Obviously, AI technology it's great, but it's not it's not the same as a human being, right? So we obviously have our real human pregnancy counselors that might dispute that and say, actually, I think this mom is going to have an abortion, or I don't think she is, or whatever it is. But we are able to triage a mom. So if a mom is triaged red, she's going to meet with her pregnancy counselor like immediately. The pregnancy counselor is going to ask her all these questions, try to get an understanding of what's going on, build trust, and let her know like we're here to help. And from there, we're going to be able to work with our finance team and build a financial plan. And that financial plan is going to list out everything that we're going to help her with, how long we're going to help, how much we're helping with. So that's based on their conversation. So it could be that she can't pay her rent. So we're going to help her with, an example would be like 6 months of rent, 4 months of utility payments and 3 months of car payments, something like that. And it's usually tapered like that because the goal is to get these moms back up on their feet.
Right.
And that's what they want to. They want to be the best mom they can be. And there's only been maybe a handful of moms that have really not cared to do that. But a majority of our moms, they just want to be really good moms and they don't want to hand out. They just want to hand up. So that financial plan gives them the sort of peace and the ease that they need to know that, like, hey, we're here to help you. And then it helps us to know like exactly what we're helping with. So then we pay their bills directly to where they're due. So we have a whole team literally dedicated that like their sole job is to pay bills for hundreds of moms every month. So we take care of that. And then that way that physical burden is lifted. We also get them connected with other resources. An important part of being pro-life and just coming alongside people in general is understanding your limitations, understanding what you can do really well and doing that, but then also understanding your limitations and allowing other people to help. And that's why we believe in partnership and collaboration so much, because we know we can't meet every single need of every single mom. I mean, that would be crazy. So we make sure that she's connected in, whether it's like an Embrace Grace group in a local church or her local pregnancy center as well, whether they maybe they didn't refer her to us, but we refer her to them so that she can go see the ultrasound and get involved in their programs as well. So we're going to make sure she's good. And we also provide support groups. We are a totally remote organization. So we help women all over the US. We've helped women internationally as well. So they're doing virtual meetings kind of like this with their pregnancy counselor, but we have virtual support groups where other moms come on, they can share with each other. They can talk about some of the similar issues they're having and build friendships with each other. And we also have financial coaching. So that's another big piece. We're teaching them how to save, how to budget. I actually just taught a course last week for our moms for the financial workshop about couponing, because I love couponing. I'm a little bit, not like crazy extreme couponer, but I do love to coupon. So I did teach moms that class, but we have a really robust program. And really it's just there and designed to help moms get to a better place.
Oh, I love all that. I love all that so
probably
much.
missing a whole bunch of stuff too. Our counseling team's probably like, Emily, you left out
What about this? What about this?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. But I love so much. But I think the biggest thing that stands out to me, especially when you're a nonprofit, because I'm also run a nonprofit, just the financial bit. And it's so hard to meet needs, but still develop responsibility and still be there, show that commitment to teaching them how to be financially stable and teaching them how to be financially independent. It's like, there's the other old saying, you catch you give a man a fish and he's going to come back over and over and over, but you teach a man how to fish and then there you go, he's set for life. And so it's the same thing. Like that's part of this issue too, especially, it's all over the place, but I love all of that. And then the counseling. And honestly, I think it's awesome that you guys are remote because there's no limit to the reach. There's no limit to, we don't, have people there. So, and it's just, and honestly, it's better too, because you're not having to find and staff, thousands of locations and then all of that.
Yeah, brick and mortars.
Right, exactly. That gives you guys so much freedom and it gives them the ability to connect with someone instantly as opposed to having to wait, Wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
It's a very different model for sure. I've had to try to break it down and explain it because for so long, the brick and mortar model has been kind of the standard. Right. And so we've broken out of that. And so explaining that to people sometimes I'm like, no, we do help women, we help them all over, but we don't have to be there in person. And that's just like a testament, I think, to just how we do want to use the technology that is available to us. And, we have a hotline and we have sort of, again, I guess hospital reference, let them live as the emergency room, but we do have on-call counselors. So the reality is that no matter what day of the week it is, if it's a weekend, if it's 10 p.m., if it's a holiday, that doesn't prevent women from considering abortion. Though, women don't stop considering abortion or feeling the fear of an unexpected pregnancy just because it's Sunday at 10 p.m. or it's Christmas. And so we do have counselors that run our hotline number. So they're on call. So they have their phone available next to them. And if that phone rings, if they're in the middle of Christmas dinner, like they're answering it. And I think that's really cool too, because it allows that the virtual type organization we have allows for that we can reach women like at all times pretty much, or they can reach us, I guess.
Well, exactly. Well, and a lot of despair and fear doesn't happen in business hours.
True.
I mean, it does, but a lot of this is amplified in evenings and around holidays where, excuse me, but they're thinking and it's just feeling a lot.
Mine happens
more
at like 4 a.m. And I'm like, I woke up this morning and I'm like, my mind is just racing, and it's not when everyone else is awake and ready to help. So
exactly. So, oh man, that's really, really cool. Okay. Well, I need to not be so selfish with the time. I need to be better about this. I'm so terrible that this is why my episodes get long. Cause I'm like,
I know. I'm like, let's do
this. Okay. So that is how you find them. And then you kind of already walked us through the process of kind of how you integrate them into the triage. I love that too. I love the analogy. That's so awesome. And then, and you've answered, actually, that answer was fabulous.
My gosh,
you got A+. Yay. Let's see. Okay. Let's get a little bit more real. You probably have more stories than you can remember, but what's a particularly powerful story of a mom and baby that you all were able to help?
No,
I love stories. I love stories. Give me a good story.
Oh my gosh. Well, I can share with you. I'll share with you one that is very personal to me and Nathan. This was actually a mom that we counseled ourselves. She was one of the first moms. I think she was like one of the first 5 moms. And she was referred to us by like a friend of a friend. And we reached out to her. So she's in California. We reached out to her and hadn't heard back from her. And we thought, okay, she just had this abortion. Like she doesn't want our help. She reached back out to us and she was telling us that she was going to have a 2-day abortion because she was about 19 weeks along. She was living in her car. The father of the baby wanted nothing to do with her. Her family couldn't help or didn't want to. Lost her job. I mean, it was really, really bad. Like she was upside down on her car, essentially, like in the loan, and it was really predatory. I mean, it was just really bad. And she was also battling mental health problems. And so she had confided in us that like if she went through with this abortion, like she was planning to commit suicide after. And so it was just super heartbreaking. Nathan and I were in Indiana at this point. So it's literally across the country trying to counsel this woman. And at first she accepted our help, but then just the fear took over again. And she's like, I'm sorry guys, like I can't do this. I just have to end it. So we texted her and we said, hey, can you just give us a chance? Like we are on the next flight. So we literally immediately booked flights, flew to California, and we were like, we landed, we're here, just give us a chance. And she did. And we got her into a hotel room temporarily. So she wasn't living in her car at, almost 20 weeks pregnant. We took care of her. We started getting her, financial support. We started helping her with, her rent. We got her into a place, all that stuff. And so she chose life. And it was just a really difficult situation because she was just a really hard mom to counsel because it was just back and forth. And she was struggling with her mental health. But when she chose life, it was just a huge moment. And she actually invited Nathan and I to be in the delivery room with her when she gave birth. And so she gave birth March 2nd, 2020. So he's actually 5 years old, Kiari. And yeah, her story is actually on our YouTube and I would highly recommend watching it. It's Satoria's story. She's got a really, really, really amazing story. But he's here. And it was the craziest moment. I was holding this little guy and just crying, like looking at his fingers and his toes and his arms and his legs because, if you don't know what happens in a 2-day abortion, you should look it up because it's really sad, but he's alive today and it's just crazy. We've had we had a mom who was in Planned Parenthood. She went back to get her ultrasound and she was waiting and she was about to go back to get the abortion. She happened to see us on her Explore page on Instagram, reached out to our social media. Our social media manager happened to see it like right when it came in, got her connected to a pregnancy counselor within minutes. The pregnancy counselor got her on the phone in the bathroom at Planned Parenthood and counseled her out of abortion. And she walked out. We got her an Uber to a pregnancy center. So that's another one that was just like, you even like, this is my hope to sidewalk counselors and people in the pro-life movement. It's like, it's not over. Okay. Like even if they're in there, like there's still hope.
Tell me God doesn't exist. My goodness. That is just so powerful.
Yep.
That is
and we've
so
had
powerful.
women take abortion pills and then do the reversal and their babies are just fine. We had a mom share with us on our like staff town hall last week that she had done that. She had taken the abortion pill, the first one, did the reversal. She had a couple ultrasound follow-up appointments and there was no heartbeat on those ultrasound appointments. They had one more ultrasound to just see before she would probably have a DNC for her miscarriage. All of a sudden there was a heartbeat. Yeah. And her baby's totally fine. Her name's Charlotte. She's so sweet. She's the cutest. I mean, so like there's just a million of these stories where it's just like literal miracles,
right?
You know, I mean, birth and getting pregnant in and of itself is a miracle in and of itself. It is. And so, you know, the timing has to be perfect, but just these stories, you know, and Nathan and I have witnessed this 1,000 times over. So.
Oh my! Well, what I heard from that is you're in the redemptive industry, but you're also in the miracle industry, and you guys get to make miracles and witness miracles and be literally God's hands, feet, and mouthpiece to these women. And He puts you on the front lines or in the emergency room. I shouldn't mix metaphors. To meet them and to oh my goodness, so many chills. I love that. Okay, I had to ask the story question, so I had to do that. Okay, so. I've been following you and Let Them Live for a little while. And I want to move on to a little bit of your story. And I asked her permission beforehand. So I'm not putting her on the spot. But I have seen that you and your husband have struggled with infertility. And so that has got to have given you just a whole nother layer to your passion for this and to your understanding for this. So first question is, how do you think that your struggle has amplified your perspective of what you guys do at Let Them Live?
Oh, I'm so glad we're talking about this because it's so important. It's so important to share. And it is truly all about perspective. When we first, we were married for 3 years at this time. So it'll be almost 7 years in September. So kind of give you a timeline. And we were like, we should be pregnant by now. It's not for lack of trying. And, we did some tests and everything and then found out my fallopian tubes were blocked. And the doctor telling me there's just really not, you're just not going to be able to conceive with this situation. It's all about perspective. In that moment, it was like I felt defective. I felt like my body was failing me because the beautiful thing about women, I don't care what feminists today say, the beautiful thing about women is that we can carry life. We can create life. Life gets created inside of us and grows, and it's natural, and it's on its own progression. It's self-driven. Yep. And I felt like I failed. Not my body only failed myself, but that I failed my husband, his family, my family. I can't give them grandkids, and everyone loves kids. And it was anger. It was jealousy. It actually started to be anger at our moms. I had to take some time off because I really needed to reset. But that was the first perspective I had was there's so many women and they're pregnant and I would give anything to be pregnant and they're not wanting their babies. Don't they understand? And I went through all the emotions, but the beauty of the Lord is that He just doesn't let you stop there. It became less of I'm angry and I'm upset and I'm jealous and more of okay, God doesn't do anything without purpose. Everything that God does is meticulous and planned and designed. He designed me this way. He put me in this time, in this place. My favorite verse is Esther 4:14. For a purpose. And is it really a coincidence that somehow I am leading a nonprofit that helps women choose life over abortion, and I literally help women to stay pregnant, and I can't get pregnant? And I started to see that not as a defect, but as a beautiful design. And it's not to say that women, I fully believe women can be mothers and they can achieve their dreams and they can. But I know that the Lord has a perfect plan, and there was a reason. There's a reason Nathan and I don't have 10 kids right now or a kid. We had to focus. God specifically designed us for this mission. And he needed 1,000% of our attention and our time to save lives, which is way more urgent than us getting pregnant. Because the reality is, if Nathan and I got pregnant, that baby would be protected. That baby would be safe. No question about it. But that's not the same situation for so many other babies around the world. They're not safe. They're not protected. And so, yeah, it became this beautiful thing. And I always joke, I'm sitting next to people on the plane and we start talking and they're like, what do you do for work? And I'm like, I don't know. You really want to know? But they'll, it'll be like, do you have any kids? And I'm like, I could tell them I have like 1,000 and counting.
What perspective do you want?
It's like a TLC show. But it's like, I do say that. I'm like, oh, well, we kind of have 1,000 kids, because these moms, a lot of the moms that we've worked with, they've allowed us to be part of their lives. And in a way, I just know that at the end of my life, it's going to be good. It's going to be okay. I'm going to know that I did something and I did what I was supposed to do on this earth, and I'm leaving it behind. And if we never have kids, then it's going to be okay. And Nathan and I have both come to that conclusion separately with the Lord, and then also together, that we're actually okay. We're good. And that was a far cry from the whole like infertility. We need to have kids. But our pastor talked about last Sunday about like, only the Lord can fulfill you. Only Jesus can fill you. Having kids isn't going to solve your problems. Getting married isn't going to solve your, you know what I'm saying? So, to be able to focus on let them live, to be able to dedicate everything I have and everything I am to this is an absolute honor.
Oh my goodness. Chills.
But I do want to say, for women who are struggling, like, you don't get there overnight. And the feelings that you are having of anger, guilt, jealousy, whatever it is, especially if they're not normal to you as a person, it's okay. It's not you. It's a process.
Well, and then when you were saying that, so one of my favorite Psalms to work through is, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, it's not even when I fly over the valley, or even if I just park in the valley of the shadow of death. No, you're walking through it. And that's absolutely normal, healthy parts of the grieving, because you're grieving and there's a grieving process, and you have to work through that if you're going to actually get to the other side. And so, wow, I'm so thankful that you shared that. There are so many things that I could and would love to just point out, but just the faithfulness of God, how thankful I am for your humility and for your willingness to walk through that valley and to not stop and set up camp and to submit and surrender to the Lord and put his perspective first. And then to even recognize that what God has given you too, like, he has not left you in a vacuum. He has given you this amazing ministry and this organization. And again, he's still writing the story, right? The story's not over. But, and on that note, so you have shared that you're a bit of your journey on trying to adopt, or you have adopted embryos.
Yeah.
Tell me all about that.
But yeah, it's so cool. Once we found out about everything that was going on, why we weren't having kids, the Lord is so faithful. So I remember Nathan and I were at like Disney or something. I don't know. He took me on a trip somewhere. And we get a call from his mom, my mother-in-law, who is an absolute angel. And she's like, hey, have you guys heard of embryo adoption? And I think maybe I had like once, but it felt like God was just giving us this lifeline, because what I was mourning a lot was the idea of never being able to experience pregnancy, because I know how beautiful it is. And I think our culture really just does not respect pregnancy, does not see the beauty of it, does not see the beauty of women being able to be the only ones that get to experience that, and how God designed that. But when she brought up embryo adoption, we started looking into it. She had heard it on the radio. She had heard about Snowflake's embryo adoption through Focus on the Family on the radio. We looked it up, and it just felt like an immediate connection. It felt like oh my gosh, not only like the most important thing here was that these are human beings that have been waiting, that need to be rescued. So that spoke to Nathan's and my like activist heart. And then obviously it was a beautiful thing to imagine that I got a chance, even just a chance to be pregnant. I mean, and Nathan always said like, hey, if this embryo transfer doesn't work, you know, you were closer than you were before because we, you know, never had a chance before. Right. But we reached out and we started this process, and gosh, it feels like it all just kind of went fast, but it was a long process. But we went through the whole thing. We got approved. We had to take like a marriage like assessment where they assessed if, you know, we're a good fit, and we got like 100% or something like, you know, compatibility. We did home study, we did all the stuff. And I love that Snowflakes treats this whole process just very similar to an adoption process, because legally in the United States, there's no embryo adoption. It's like ownership. Mm-hmm. So you're essentially like transferring ownership, which is super weird, because it's like the last time we talked about owning human beings, that did not go well. But I love how they treat it, and they create a culture of adoption around it. So we did a home study, we did all the stuff, we put together a family profile, and then we were picked by a family. Nathan and I chose to join Snowflake's Open Hearts program. So we just kept telling people like, we don't care. We're not doing genetic testing. We don't, you know, just give us the embryos that are not being adopted for whatever reason. And I remember Nathan and I were like, okay, well, maybe we'll like adopt 9, or maybe we'll adopt like 7. And we got our match a few years ago, our first match, and they were like, hey, we've got 15. And Nathan and I were like, immediately, we did not hesitate. We said, yes, absolutely. Like I can still find the email somewhere, I'm sure. But it was absolutely amazing because we adopted 15 embryos, and they were the same age as me. So I was born in 1995. They were created and frozen in 1994 and 1995. So so we did it. We went through the whole process. We got, you know, we did the whole thing through an IVF clinic, because you have to. Right. I mean, and that's a lot of people I know. There's, I mean, I have my issues with IVF and all that stuff, but you got to do what you got to do for these embryos. So we did that, and the day of the embryo transfer came, and they had thawed them. Ultimately, only 2 had survived, and they transferred those 2. So 13 of them, actually 11 of them, 10 of them, I'm sorry, 10 of them immediately died upon thawing. 3 of them looked like they were still kind of growing, so they were going to wait. And then 2 of them were ready. So we transferred the 2 of them. And then a couple of days later, I got a call from a nurse, and it was just so crazy. It was such a weird call. She's like, sorry, your other 3 embryos didn't make it, so we went ahead and discarded them. And I was like, do you realize what you just said to me? Like, you just told me, like, discard. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's just, it was weird. But I knew that we loved them, that their biological parents loved them enough to give them a chance, and that they were not forgotten. And so we ended up getting a negative pregnancy test after that transfer, which was super tough. I mean, the whole thing's super tough because you're on a bunch of hormones, and it's like, it's crazy. Right. But we took a little bit of time, and then we reached back out to Snowflakes and said, we're ready to do this again. So we did. We went back and we did the Open Hearts program, and we got matched, and we adopted 10 more. And just, 3 weeks ago, we did our embryo transfer. So this time the embryos we adopted were in different like straws or tubes. So they didn't have to thaw them all out. So they thawed out one of them. One of our little embryos died. But then there were 2 that were looking really good. So we transferred those 2. And then we did get a negative pregnancy test, which was so tough. Yeah. It's just so tough. Because these are just, you know, you're just so hopeful, and you think about just a weird process because you have to wait between the embryo transfer and the pregnancy test 2 weeks. And you're like, should I think about my future family? Should I not? Should I just expect a negative? But God has been so faithful through it all. Like, if I can say one thing, that's what it is. Like, there's a purpose, there's a reason. His timing is perfect. He has not failed us. I mean, he took Let Them Live. He took $1,200 and turned it into millions of dollars. Like, I that he's given me no reason not to trust him. So that's what Nathan and I have just been leaning on during this time. And, but we still have 7 embryos that are waiting. So, we're gonna rescue them and free them soon, hopefully.
So I love your story. I love how honest you are. I love how open you guys have been, because you're right. Not very many people know about embryo adoption, and not many people have any idea what that is. Not very many people know that there are 1.5 million frozen embryos in existence right now, sitting in freezers, and the overwhelming majority of those will never be transferred. Because most of them are in storage for a reason. They either their biological parents made or had made, dozens, and only, wanted 3 or 4 children and all of that. So there's definitely an education piece to this, but also I love how you are giving them their best shot at life. Like, you are stepping in. I've known about embryo adoption for a really long time, and my big goal in this is just to get that number down. Like, there's just so many, and you guys are doing it. So even in your loss, God is still, you're honoring these babies, you're honoring these embryos. So even that has a huge purpose, and you're giving them dignity, and I love how you said you're rescuing them. You are rescuing them. And
it's so bittersweet. It really is. Like, when we lost them, what was really helpful for Nathan and I was that we named our embryos, and we just gave them to God. They were already his, but in our minds, and I would know, even if I knew, well, I'm glad the Lord doesn't tell us everything, because sometimes I feel like if we knew certain things, we wouldn't do them. We wouldn't get out of bed. But I would do this over again, and we will. We're going to keep doing it. Like, we have to just give them a shot.
I love that so much. And that's a whole, yes, I'm very, very, very passionate about this. And we have not done embryo adoption, but I knew about it before we got pregnant with our first. And so that was my, in the back of my mind, we'll give it a shot naturally. And if it doesn't work, then embryo adoption. But God had other plans for us, and which is just part of his beautiful story that he writes in all of our lives. So, oh my goodness. Okay. Well, I am not going to hijack your entire day, but I want to bring it back to Let Them Live. And I want to know, what can people do to support you guys? Give us all the things. What can we do to help?
There's so much. And that's my encouragement. First off, is there's actually something that you can do, that we can do, to end abortion, to save lives from abortion. When I was in college, and I think a lot of pro-lifers feel this, that it feels a little bit hopeless sometimes. Like, we're fighting a really big Goliath, and we don't know if we're going to see the fruits of it. But the reality is that, of course, with so many organizations, but obviously, especially Let Them Live, you are able to directly impact a decision that a woman has. You are able to directly help a woman say no to abortion and say yes to her baby and yes to life. We have this model of crowdfunding. So people from all over the world donate, and those donations pay for the bills that relieve those moms from the fear and the stress that allow them to make that decision to choose life that saves their babies. So the power of people coming together, the reality is that we can do something. Like, Let Them Live. We are saving lives from abortion. It's just a fact. And so I just want to encourage people that if you are feeling a little down, know that you're not alone. We've all felt that at some point. Like, this feels like an unending battle, but just be encouraged that there is something that you can do, whether it's through Let Them Live or other pro-life organizations. Lives can be saved from abortion. And so I just encourage people to check out our website, letthemlive.org. You can donate. We have stories of moms that we are raising money for. You can support monthly. If you're a pastor or you're a member of a church and you want your church to get involved, we have our Adopt a Mom program, which is a way to, personally, you adopt a mom, you financially support her, of course, but you come alongside of her as a congregation, as a group that throws her baby shower, writes her letters, gives her support, and just comes alongside of her. So there's ways for everybody to get involved. And if financially you're not in a place to give, that's totally fine. The New Testament speaks of, the Old Testament was about tithing and kind of the rules of that. The New Testament is about giving cheerfully and giving joyfully. out of your heart. And so I just encourage people, like, if you're not giving cheerfully, don't give. The Lord loves a cheerful giver. I can't remember where that's from, but I know it's in there.
It is. You're right.
But if financial support is not something that you're capable of doing at the moment, that's okay. There's so many other ways, like volunteering. No matter where you're at, you can sit in your living room and volunteer for Let Them Live, whether as thank you card writing for our donors or pregnancy counseling. You can intern with us if you're in college. You can, share and support us on social media, but there's something that you can do. There's something that everyone can do to promote the mission of Let Them Live and just the mission of the pro-life movement.
That's awesome. And I love that point, because that's a point that so many of us are missing, is we think that if we're not in the emergency room, then if we're not a trained nurse, if we're not a doctor, if we're not, that kind of support staff, that we have no role. Or if we are a millionaire or aren't a millionaire, then we have nothing to contribute. But one, I want to push the financial piece to almost everybody can donate $5. Almost everyone can donate their cup of coffee that they would normally get at a local coffee shop. So I encourage you not to think that financial support means $1,000 a month. It can be small, and those small things make a difference. Just as we talked about, God used $1,200 in y'all's story and turned it into millions. Jesus literally took bread and loaves. That's the same thing. Loaves and fish, loaves of bread and fish, and fed thousands and thousands and thousands of people with it. So be faithful in the little bit, be faithful in that little step. But then also, again, and you mentioned it earlier, the power of prayer. We all can pray. We all can pray. And this doesn't have to be hours and hours every single day, but being diligent and faithful in our prayers, because who is the object of our prayers and the focus of our prayers? God, who literally does everything. God, the one who rescues that mom who is in the Planned Parenthood about to get her abortion, and he says, no. This is what prayer can do. And so financial prayer, education too. Again, going and spreading the word, that is not nothing. And you might not think that like resharing a post is any kind of big deal. It absolutely could be a big deal, because someone who's considering abortion may just happen upon that post or happen upon that story and choose life. So you have no idea what God is going to do with your faithfulness and with your obedience. And so with Let Them Live and all the other pro-life organizations, we have to get involved. It's not enough to give them lip service and just assume that it's going to be taken care of. We have to actively participate and come together and be God's hands, feet, heart, and mouthpiece in this movement, because it's an important movement. And golly, if there was ever an important movement, it is to protect and save the lives of the least of these, and they are the least of these. So I am so grateful for your time. I am so grateful for your willingness to come on and to share not just about your amazing nonprofit, but also your heart and your story. I know that God is going to continue to use. Yeah. He has. He's going to continue to use you powerfully. Personally, I just really believe bigger things are coming for you guys, and also for Let Them Live. And I can't wait to see the story that he's going to continue writing.
Yeah, me too. I have no idea what it is, and that's the beauty of the Lord. Everything's a surprise. I might go to an early grave, but no, I just kidding.
But that means you go to heaven sooner. So really, there's no way to lose in that. So
keeps me on the edge of my seat. But the Lord, I'm excited. I'm right there with you. I'm excited to see what He does next.
I am too. Well, again, thank you so much, friends. If you have questions, if you want to find out more, obviously go to their website. It's a fantastic website. They have all their information and stories. I'm a story person, but I love the stories and all of the ways to donate and contribute and find out all the information. So please go to their website, and it's letthemlive.org. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Letthemlive.org.
Look at me. I remembered. Okay. It's letthemlive.org. Get involved. Follow them on social media. Share, educate, do everything you can, because I promise it's not going to come back in vain. God is going to use that. And again, anyway, Emily, thank you so much again. Yes. And I am just your cheerleader and forever will be, and cannot wait to continue watching what he's going to do.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Okay. Bye, friends.